What are Outbrain ads? Maybe you've already seen in the past the Outbrain logo on news websites. Today in this video, I will talk with you about what are Outbrain ads, when does Outbrain ads make sense and when not. First of all, when we talk about Outbrain, we are talking about native advertising. The big benefit of native advertising is that the user does not see that he will get advertised. So it feels completely smooth and naturally for a reader of a news page. In general, native advertising makes sense when you want to scale or when you want to get a cheaper CPA, a cheaper cost per acquisition. And native advertising makes sense either if you're in lead gen or in e-commerce. If you compare native advertising with social media advertising, for example, like Facebook ads, TikTok ads, you will see that native advertising is much more scalable. And when I'm talking about scalable, I mean that you can spend really high amounts of money on native advertising. Of course, we all know or we all seen already those brands which are spending 100K per day on Facebook ads and so on. But many of you guys are not able to scale profitably on platforms like TikTok or Facebook. And that's the point where native advertising joins the game. If you want to see how native advertising is working in general, how a funnel looks like and so on, please check out my other video here on YouTube about native advertising. Let's talk about Outbrain. And Outbrain is one of the biggest native advertising traffic sources out there. The company itself is based in Israel, but of course the placements are on news pages all over the world. And maybe you're already familiar with media buying, with traffic buying on Facebook, on Google, on YouTube, and so on. But it's very important to understand that buying traffic on a native platform is completely different like on, for example, social media platforms. Unfortunately, there are no big algorithms on those platforms at native. So you have to make a lot of manual bidding, you have to set up a lot of manually. So at the end of the day, it's a lot of work. Unfortunately, it's not just a lot of work, but you also need a lot of know-how because every platform, for example, Taboola works a little bit different than Outbrain, or Outbrain works a little bit different than Taboola. So you have to understand how this traffic source is working. So you need a lot of knowledge for every traffic platform on native if you want to scale very broad. And that's the big pain point because to learn native advertising is extremely hard. It's not just super easy like on Facebook, I upload a few images, I upload a few headlines, and the Facebook algorithm, especially before iOS 14, works very well and just brings me some conversions. Unfortunately, that's not the case on native. So a native funnel looks completely different than a funnel on social media. On social media, sometimes you're directly linking, especially in e-commerce, to a product page. You do not do this on native. On native, you see the ad, you have a page which is named Advertorial, which is the landing page where the user can read a lot of copy, can read more about the product or service, and just then he or she can click to offer page, to product page, and so on. So a funnel works different, but also the audience is different on Outbrain. When the audience is very young on TikTok, you have a more elderly audience on Outbrain. And it's extremely important to understand this because not every product, not every service is a good fit for a traffic source like Outbrain. Let's jump on my screen and I will show you a little bit more about Outbrain. Before I will show you Outbrain for you as an advertiser brand owner, I will show you how your prospects perceive Outbrain as a potential lead or buyer. And let me switch to this screenshot here. So this is a screenshot from T-Online, which is a very famous or big news portal in Germany. And unfortunately, T-Online is not part of the Outbrain feed, but of the Taboola feed, but it's just for showing perspectives here. First of all, it's important to understand that the user doesn't feel like that he will get advertised. What I mean by that is here is the translation more news or more from T-Online. So you see here that this is no advertisement. That's normal legit articles from the news brand. But if you go down a little bit, you see here advertisements and they are marked with Anzeige, which is called advertisement just in German. So everywhere where you find the word Anzeige, it's an advertisement. And For example, this one here looks like a regular advertisement. It's a high class image. You see here some legal stuff which you need for cars and so on. But for example, an image like that or that doesn't look like an ad. So the people or the prospects are not understanding that they get advertised here. So it feels completely naturally for them because it doesn't look like an ad. And that's the big power of native advertisement, because first of all, it doesn't feel like the people get advertised, and you have to understand that people are reading always more or less the same news pages. And why they're reading it? Because, for example, the Online is for many Germans a very trustworthy news page. So for example, if your ad is shown on a very trustworthy news page for people, they will also automatically trust your product, your service a little bit more just by the fact that your ad was shown here on a big news page. So let's switch now the perspective from an potential prospect, potential client to use an advertiser. And what we see here, or first of all, what's important to understand is that native advertising is especially ideal for a top of the funnel view because you don't have a targeting. So native ads are perfectly to get people or to come people, invite people to your funnel. And for that, you need a very broad product or service approach. So it doesn't make sense for you to run native ads just for a small dedicated niche out there. And the goal at the end of the day is to convert people with, for example, Outbrain ads just within a few clicks without retargeting or so stuff. So that's the moment, or that's the point when native ads are very complex at the one hand side, but on the other hand side might be very profitable due to the fact that the people are converting just within a few clicks for a product which might cost 100, 150 bucks or so without any retargeting campaigns and so on. So let's switch now to Outbrain to show you a little bit more how Outbrain is working. So Outbrain is one of the biggest traffic ad networks for native in the world by the side with Taboola. And you see here some very big advertisers or platforms like CNN, MSN, Sky News, and many, many more. In each country, they're switching a little bit, but they have a very big inventory. And here you see a little bit how they're looking like. So you see that's the Outbrain Smart Feed. By the way, you can use multiple image formats. This, for example, is an image, but you can also use GIFs, videos, some motion graphics, and so on. But to be honest, the most common ones are a regular static image with an headline. So if you scroll down here a little bit, you see that there are very, very big placements, very famous placements. I think in Germany, by the way, you reach 8 out of 10 of the most visited sites with Outbrain, which is pretty awesome. And you see here some facts about it, that you have a higher engagement versus, for example, Google Display Ads, and so on and so on. But you can read it by your own. I just want to show you a little bit more how they're looking like, how it feels like to advertise with Outbrain with some smart feed examples here. I've already mentioned it before that there are different ad formats, and you can see them here on the Smart Ads gallery on the Outbrain's website. So that's the regular format, which is the smart ad, and that's the most common one with, I don't know, we're running, I think, 95% of those kind of ads, which is just a static image and a headline. You can additional or optional add also a call to action button, like here this shop now one, but it's not mandatory. Then you have a carousel ad, which is pretty the same like on Facebook, a carousel ad, which you can see here. It's working best for e-commerce, not so good for lead gen, but for e-commerce it might be useful. By the way, you have a lot of app install smart ads also on Outbrain. This might be interesting for you if you advertise an ad for the App Store or Google Play Store. You have some clip smart ads, which could be a video or so an MP4 file or a GIF. So why I want to skip this part a little bit is because, as you can see here, some of that are in alpha or beta status. And by the way, they're not converting as good as the regular placements, for example, like the standard smart ads or clip smart ads. That's the legit best converting ads by now. But of course, I'm pretty sure it will change by the time. But currently, things like click to watch smart ads or native awareness plus smart ads aren't working on a performance base as good as the regular ads like the standard smart ads. Before we're talking a little bit more about the traffic source, I will show you the typical funnel of a native ad, because it's important to understand that the native advertising funnel looks completely different, for example, than a social media funnel. So first of all, you have the ad on the bottom of the page, which is the most common one. So you have a static image and the headline. Normally you address in the headline the audience. So for example, people born between this and this age, keep attention. Dog owners, be aware of this and this issue. So that's how an ad might be look like. And after that, you have an advertorial. And it's important to understand what's an advertorial, because an advertorial is a landing page which looks like an editorial. So it looks like a normal common article from the news page. But of course, it's not a regular article, it's a sales copy inside there. Of course, it's written completely naturally in the speak of an more article style, but at the end of the page you have a call to action, you have a FOMO section and so on, where people can buy the product or offer or buy the service. And after that, after people are clicking on this button or on the section, they're coming to an offer page, which might be the product page or a template where they can generate a lead. So that's the typical native advertising funnel, which might look a little bit different from social, because normally on social and e-com, you just have an ad, you have an offer page, and waiting for the first purchases. So that's very important to understand. So you need a little bit more of know-how, because you don't just need a media buying know-how, you also need a very legit copywriting know-how, because if the advertorial sucks, your whole campaign will be not profitable. So let's come to a conclusion. And I thought a lot of the idea to show you the dashboard, but I will not show you the dashboard in this video, just by one fact. And the fact is that the dashboard might be looking very simple for you. And you might be thinking, okay, native ads could be very easy for me, but they aren't. So this video should just give a little bit an overview about the traffic source itself, and not to be a typical how-to video, because I will absolutely not recommend you to try native advertising by yourself, because I will promise you here that you will lose a lot of money when you try it by your own. So I will not show you any dashboard, and I will highly not recommend you to start with native ads, not because we're a native advertising agency, but I saw many people who started with native ads and they lost a lot of money just by the fact that they don't know what bids are, how they can set bids, and it's a very complex system to run native advertising campaigns profitable. I hope you liked that video. If so, I would be extremely appreciated if you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to get updated when I upload a new video about native advertising. Have a good one. See you next time.